Good afternoon. How are you? Well, we got a great day here, and the temperature, can you believe it? Thomas Jefferson records us at 51 degrees. That's not fair. We got to get that up to 70 again. And the humidity at 61, which may account for the clouds, and the wind is supposedly at 6 miles an hour. And although I don't feel that, it's a little uncomfortable. I should have dressed warm, but that's the way it goes. After you walk a while, you warm up. Anyhow, that's what I found. Judge Chutkan, whom I appeared before in a matter involving a criminal defense, I got some idea to know her, and so I'm fascinated by her role today in sort of sticking it to Elon Musk. Now, that wasn't her objective. She's responding, of course, to, I think it's 14 state attorneys general who are saying, where do these guys get the authority to do what they're doing? And for the time being, what she said is, well, that's a more complicated issue we'll have to consider. But right now, she's issued a discovery order that must be responded to by April the 2nd. And it is, what is the authority of Elon to do what he's doing? And she says, the question is, does he have the power, the authority to do what he's doing under the appointments clause? But she says she's not going to reach that question right away. She says they want to know the scope of doggies, and Musk's authority. So what she's authorized is information in which Doge has been involved with employees, contracts, grants, federal funding, legal agreements, databases, any data systems changes, machines, those kinds of things. So that will be a look into it. It's too bad it's not like tomorrow, but you would think these people who can close down and suck out all the information in a matter of minutes would be able to respond to an order like that in a day or less. But, we don't know. Trump also is in the news again, always badly, every day in the news. There's never a time in which he's getting up saying anything good, because he's so busy tearing things down. And I think it's hard for us to think that he's tearing these things down without knowing what he's doing. He's trying to destroy our democracy. And people keep telling us, no, it's not that at all. He's doing this and he's doing that and the other thing. He wants to destroy the democracy. He wants to establish a dictatorship for himself. And how many things does he have to do before people believe that? You trash the economy, you trash the government, you trash relationship with allies around the world. You seemingly only please Putin, and people are still saying, no, he's okay. He's not okay. And it's good to see that the courts and some elected officials and people that we rely on are talking back to those people that say it's all honey and milk and wonderful times and don't you worry and the sky's not falling. Well, the sky's not falling yet, but he's doing his best to bring it down. So what does Trump want to do? What's the latest thing he wants to do? He wants to restrict birthright citizenship, and the courts have shut him down, several. And so now he's going to go to the Supreme Court. I think I'd be surprised if they ruled as he wants. But he's going to go there. And what is his answer? Why does he need to do that? Security for the border. He wants to create kind of a catch-22. You as an individual, if I can challenge your birthright, I can challenge your ability to come to court. But that overlooks a whole set of cases that say you don't even have to be a citizen in America to invoke the rights of a citizen. And we have cases involving terrorists. Now, this category is not a terrorist. And ironically, things I talked about, and I usually try not to talk about something over and over again because I get sick of listening to what the professionals do. But one of the things was going back to John Adams, the Alien and Sedition Acts. And the Alien and Sedition Acts involved two parts. One, never acted upon, was what they could do with aliens. And two, was really to put a muzzle on First Amendment rights during the Adams period, which really meant for Adams, as coming from the Federalist branch, to attack the Jeffersonians and those who had printing presses that worked for them. And so some think, myself included, as an amateur historian and political obsessive, that Adams couldn't get a second term because of his position on these items. And Washington probably set a standard when he was very uncomfortable with the notions of royalty and imperialism after we had separated ourselves from the King of England. So these are the matters that should go through our heads. So Trump is always looking for ways to change the basic rules of America. That should be a tell. That should inform us that we know something's going on. Putin kicks the ceasefire down the road. Now this is another one of these things where, and if you hear it, let me know about it. But here's a scenario. We beat Zelensky over the head to agree to a ceasefire. We attacked him as Trump does to anybody who gets in his viewfinder that doesn't agree with him 100% and kiss his ass. So you get Zelensky to give you mineral rights, and you do it. And it has to be detached and independent of anything else. And then days later, after leaning on Zelensky, Putin says, well, we're looking at it. We need some other things and so on. He has no intention of signing it. Ever, maybe. It's sort of like Netanyahu's view. Well, we're still dealing with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. We're working on it. We'll get a peace treaty here. And so we see the same action. So Putin helps his boy, Trump, get this mineral rights in Ukraine, and Zelensky gets nothing in terms of advancing a ceasefire, and nobody talks about it. Isn't it? I don't know. It's not just that we bump around. I think in my own history, being a street kid was a good thing. I mean, I didn't know there was any reason that it could not be a good thing, and mixing with kids, some were good, some were bad. Mostly they didn't go past high school. Neither did my brother, my mother, my father. And I loved school, and it was my escape route from the Bronx. But the nation is clogged with people with that background, and I can't think of a single commentator who has said Zelensky got taken. It's another grift by the king of grifts, not the deal, the grift, the crooked deal. So that's and then here's another thing about words and language and the ongoing debate. When I was a kid, I got these books with words because I wanted to know more words and stuff like that. And Lindsay was the mayor of New York at one point, and he used a word at a press conference. And one of the reporters said, "Aren't you concerned about using a word that the people may not know or understand?" And he said they could look it up. Now, what does that have to do with anything today? Fetterman says that people don't know what an oligarch is. And so he's saying we should talk like normal people. And he attacks Stephanie Ruhle for using the term oligarch. So the difference, I think, is Ruhle knows what it means, And Fetterman, not so much. But also, it is a way of changing the debate, suppressing the kinds of words and thoughts that allow us to know what's really going on. And sometimes you get the information and you have to use your noggin to figure out what else is being said that's being edited out, not understood, not said. And that information is critically important to make the decisions as a citizen, a family member, or an elected representative. And are they doing it? I don't know. Now, there's another court case out in California in which a judge is returning probationary employees to work. And we're talking about the VA, Defense Energy, Interior, Agriculture, and Treasury. So there we have another trend line in the courts, doing the right thing, moving us out of the area of, inaction to a point of progress in the rights and existence of our government. Today there was a protest at Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue to protect Khalil's detention. He's the Columbia University student. And it's another example of Trump's efforts to chill everyone from speaking and criticizing and doing anything. Again, go back to the Alien and Sedition Act. He's on the Sedition Act side of it. You can't say anything negative against him. Whereas the Sedition Act had to do with war and security, and Trump is citing it, but even that act does not countenance what he's doing. Has anybody told us that? No. Because all they do is rip and read. Or they're told not to give all of the information. And editors may or may not be fooling around with it. And is every news outlet doing it? I don't know. But I'm sure there are surprising ones. And that's what we have to be concerned about. Now, what about the continuing resolution that's sitting in the Senate that by midnight Friday, if we don't act, the government shuts down? And what does that mean? And how could the Democrats be hesitating to sign a CR? And the answer is rational and sensible, and presently it is going to stop the current CR from being approved. First, let's talk about why Democrats should stand back from the CR, the continuing resolution, the spending bill by which the government continues to spend and do things. And the answer is that Trump and Elon Musk have been on a campaign to destroy the government, and the continuing resolution would permit them to shift spending in such a fashion as it would give them the power to cut even more agencies. Now, in the category of a dilemma, if the government is shut down, a president in that situation has certain powers to do something. Is it a no-win proposition? Some are of the view that you can't possibly do better voting against the continuing resolution. But when you consider how much more dramatic this is than some sort of issue disagreement, this is an existential discussion between having a government that still resembles a republic and has democratically elected representatives who, if they're not like a lot of the thunderheads we have now, actually do their job and argue and protest and vote and act on behalf of the oath they took, which is to preserve and protect our nation. But the current thing is Elon Musk and Trump are shutting down parts of the government. you could say that Trump created an enemies list that would be the envy of any of Nixon's efforts to identify his enemies. And we don't want to give Trump the additional authority to do more wars. And this continuing resolution affects the funds that affect public health and safety, and so hold some operations in such a place that it makes it difficult. For example, Social Security checks, and opening up for China opportunities that dismantle our foreign aid partnerships. And beware, Trump is the power in that after joint. But easy decisions are not what the game of government is all about. And the game is a serious game, because even when it doesn't involve physical violence, it has an economic violence. And the economic violence is taking for the oligarchs, taking for the wealthy who brought Trump to the dance, taking for the wealthy their reward, while taking the funds from the middle class they also purported to represent, but did not, and do not, and will not, because that's not their game. Terrorize all people except the insiders, the oligarchs. Some senators are going to have to learn what that word means if we don't stop them in their tracks. Also, the final note that comes to my mind, this is a stream of consciousness, you must understand, right? The final one is the quote I heard in the background while I was editing a document, but I'm 100% certain I've got this right. We don't need anybody else. That's what Trump is saying. We don't need Canada's food or electricity or anything, nothing from them. We got it all. They should be welcoming us, considering making them a 51st state. We sent that wasted piece of shit from Florida, pardon my French, to go down to decide whether or not we want to own the Panama Canal again. And we're going to move troops down there so we could take it. And I suppose in Greenland, they're going crazy in elections, and they're going to want to, and have, protested. What is the objective of being a purely national entity in a world that, at least until Trump's re-election, was about globalism? We're all in this together. And Trump keeps mentioning, like, it's a wall against anybody getting at us. That is the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. Well, think again. As one commentator said, there's a 4-letter acronym you should get used to, ICBM, International Ballistic Missile, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. So I got to do my own homework, I suppose. And so what are we dealing with? We're dealing with a megalomaniac, and no one wants to say it. And it's calling names: oligarch, felon Trump, idiot genius Elon. Now, let me revisit again for framing purposes. There is a triumvirate riding this ship into oblivion so they can replace it with a dictatorship. It's of course Trump, it's of course Elon, but the guy behind the scenes who's the real revolutionary is Bannon. And those three people are the traitors to America. They're the ones who want to destroy this country in contradiction of their oath, in contradiction of our statutes and our laws, of our history, of what makes America special. And we return to that old question Benjamin Franklin was asked when the Constitution was drawn. Sir, do we have a republic? And he said, you do, if you can keep it. And right now, it's clear that whatever guts the founders had to risk their own deaths in declaring independence, we have to look hard and long for people like that today. And the best are not the kids. Bernie Sanders is out there working the districts where Republicans supported Trump and educating them. Now, these people who've had the Kool-Aid, they just scratch their heads. They don't get it. But we need enough to tilt America back into the vector that guarantees us freedom. And we have to do it. This is not an oversale. This is the real thing. So anyhow, that's what I got to say today. So I say have a good day until tomorrow. From my cathedral of trees until tomorrow. Bye-bye.